Hello, today I will be discussing the ins and outs of Adobe Photoshop when creating a master plan design for a landscape. This was a rather easy process which mostly involved roughly 7 basic procedures and a lot of repetition. Throughout this video, I will describe the steps taken to complete these procedures and the purpose of completing them. The first procedure that had to be completed was converting desired layers from AutoCAD into PDFs so that they could be opened in Photoshop. In order to do this, the desired master plan was opened in AutoCAD in the paper space. From there, all of the layers except the desired one was turned off. For example, to create a PDF of the tree in AutoCAD, all of the layers were turned off except for the tree, mulch, and viewport layers. Next, print was selected. Under this tab, the file could be changed from a DWG to a PDF and saved as a tree. This procedure was repeated for the small shrubs, medium shrubs, large shrubs, and site amenities, which included the lawn, mulch, bench, water feature, patio, and patio stones. This meant that 5 PDF prints were created in total. These could then individually be opened with ease in Photoshop. Also, using the copy, paste, and move tools, they could be edited to be on one singular page, each with their own layer that could be labeled according to what PDF it was taken from. These layers could be turned on and off as desired. In order to keep the master plan organized, I labeled mine as AutoCAD, followed by the object. So for example, I labeled my tree layer as AutoCAD tree. This helped avoid creating any layers with the same name throughout the project and let me know exactly what the layer contained. The second procedure completed involved selecting objects, saving them as one selection, and then loading that selection. The main purpose of this procedure was to prevent any other objects surrounding the selected object to be manipulated. This procedure was especially helpful when adding textures to plants since it enabled only the plants in the loaded selection to have textures added to them, and disabled the surrounding space to have a texture added to it. This procedure also allowed for the layers to have color added to them using the Edit-Fill tool. The process of adding textures and filling layers with colors will be discussed later on in this video. In order to load a selection though, the first thing that needs to be done is turning on the layer you want to work with and turning the other layers off. This step just makes the drawing easier to work with. For example, if you want to work with the tree, turn the tree layer on and the rest of the layers off. Then, use the magic wand tool in order to select the interior part of the tree and open the Selection drop-down tab. Select the Save Selection button and label it whatever you desire. Press Ctrl-D on your keyboard to deselect the objects. Finally, load the selection by going to the Selection drop-down tab again, but this time pressing the Load Selection button. From there, you can edit that particular selection and that selection only. The next 3 procedures I will be discussing all work to create more color, dimension, and interest within the master plan. The first procedure involved editing the plan material and filling it with color. First, a new layer was created by pressing the plus button, which resided next to the trash can at the bottom right of the screen. This layer was then labeled whatever the object was. For example, if I wanted to fill the tree first, I would label the new layer tree. This is why it was important to label the first tree layer created using the PDF as AutoCAD tree. Next, all other layers except the new tree layer were turned off and the tree layer was clicked on to ensure it was the active layer. The previously created tree selection could then be loaded and a foreground color could be chosen using the color swatch. After this, the Edit drop-down tab was opened and the Fill button was pressed. This opened a window where the object that you want to fill could be chosen and it could be ensured that it was going to be filled with the foreground color and not the background color. Then the OK button could be selected and the object was filled. After filling all of the plan material and site amenities with color, they were then given dimension using shading and highlighting. In Photoshop, the Drop Shadow tool and Burn tool is used to achieve this. In order to describe this procedure, I will be using the tree layer as an example. So first, this layer had to be turned on and used as the active layer, while the rest of the layers had to be turned off. Next, settings for the Drop Shadow tool were adjusted by right-clicking on the layer and choosing blending options from the drop-down menu and selecting Drop Shadow. The settings were adjusted to what is displayed in this video. A shadow was added to the tree after pressing OK. Next, the burn tool was selected from the toolbar on the left of the display, and it was adjusted, as well as the size of it, so it was the same size as the tree. Then the tree was shaded following the shadow created using the drop shadow tool. The final procedure that helped add interest within the master plan mostly involved the paintbrush tool and its settings. To describe these steps, I will again be using the tree as an example. So this was the only layer turned on and activated throughout this process. After activating this layer, the paintbrush was selected from the toolbar located on the left side of the display. Then texture was given to the brush by choosing the Kyle Splatter Supreme Splatter brush from the Special Effect Brushes file. The size of the brush could also be changed using the bracket keys, if desired, as well as the color of it. Before applying the brush, though, the tree selection was loaded, so the space around it could not be edited. Finally, texture could be added to the tree by simply left-clicking until the desired look was achieved. To give the master plan a more realistic feel and more detail, graphic symbols were placed onto the drawing using a specially created paintbrush setting. This brush setting was kind of like a stamp and was sized and placed on each individual plant on a newly created layer. The procedure began by downloading the special paintbrush symbols from a file located in Canvas. These symbols could then be opened in the brush tool by clicking the Import Brushes button and choosing the downloaded file. After this, the desired symbol was chosen and placed onto the desired layer and plant by simply left-clicking. The size of the symbol could be edited in the brush settings so that it would be exactly the same size as the plant you were working with. It should be noted that a new layer was created for each group of graphic symbols. Although the labeling procedure and purpose was already discussed in this video, Photoshop offers another feature that increases the organizational aspect of labeling even more. This feature is called grouping, and it allows users to create a file folder within the labeling tab and drag layers into it. This file can be labeled as well. This was extremely helpful in this project because it gave me the ability to group all of the similarly labeled objects together. These grouped objects could then be opened to display all the layers or closed to just display the file folder. This made finding layers easier to navigate in order to turn them on and off while working. It also made it so that you could turn off entire groupings. For example, you could turn off all of the AutoCAD objects just by turning off the AutoCAD group. Overall, Photoshop gave me the ability to create a well-organized and easy-to-decipher master plan with just a few easy procedures. Photoshop, although it is not an industry-specific software, could be useful in the industry in order to create a master plan without having to draw them by hand. Although, personally, I would rather just draw them by hand, I can see how other people may prefer this. It is always nice to have options, and Photoshop is a good one to have for both industry and non-industry specific projects.